Hey there, Chadi Bazzi here, and welcome to another episode of the Top Listing Agent Show. Today, I have a very exciting guest for you, Darryl Davis, someone that's been in real estate more years than a lot of people that I know. I mean, he got into business at 19 years old and just hit the pavement running the exact way that I hit the pavement running. So we have a lot in common that we're going to be talking about today. And I felt like Darryl is the ideal guest for a number of different kind of real estate agents. Those that are just starting out in the business, what a conversation we're going to have today. Those that are only doing, 1-2 transactions a month, man, we're going to show you how to double that immediately. Those that are been in the business for 10, 15, 20 years, well, here's someone who's been in the business since he was 19 years old. And I'm definitely going to extract a lot of nuggets from him on how you too can jumpstart, reignite, and scale your business to the next level. So with that said, Mr. Darryl Davis, welcome to the Top Listing Agent Show, my brother.
Thank you, Chadi. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you so much for all that you do. The giving that you give to the industry and to agents is just mind blowing. So thanks for the contribution you make by doing stuff like this for them.
I appreciate you, brother. And let's begin by I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have heard your name, heard about your coaching program and your story. And then there's people that are like, who is this Darryl Davis guy? What's he doing on here? Can you just walk us a little bit about like who you are, your journey, and why you're so awesome?
Yeah, well, I'm so awesome. That'll be obvious by the end of this hour. But my story is, Chadi, to really go back, and I'll do the Reader's Digest version. My dad passed when I was 14 years old. So my mother and we weren't doing too good. I became an emancipated minor at 16, was living on my own, working 3 jobs, still going to high school. And I had my own apartment paying rent. So I had to grow up really super fast. And I'm from Long Island, New York. I'm sorry, let me say it the right way, Long Island. And I was also a struggling actor. The joke in the show business, when you tell people, I'm an actor, they say, oh, really? What restaurant are you working? So I didn't want to be the typical, actor that was working restaurants. So I wanted to find something that I could make a living and support myself, because I was supporting myself since I was 16. And obviously I was an entrepreneur. I was a clown magician, delivering newspapers, worked in a nightclub, did a lot of stuff. And so I was watching TV at 2:00 in the morning, and there was an infomercial on about buying real estate with no money down. So that caught my attention. I went to that. I got me interested in real estate. I looked to get my license. When I was in college, I took my license exam class that I needed. And then I got into real estate, 19 years old. Shortly after about 6 months, I was doing 6 transactions a month as an agent. And I worked this was back in BC, before computers. So we didn't have social media. So it was like, I learned how to list and sell, like calling for sale by owners. And let me tell you, Chadi, the FSBOs in New York, they eat their young. I mean, these people, they curse at you and then hang up. Then you got to call them back, say, I'm sorry, we got disconnected. So it was kind of like Marine boot camp training for realtors. Because if you can list a FSBO in New York, you can do it anywhere. So I became strong super quick. Then somebody recruited me to be a manager. They said, will you open up a new office in Long Island for us? We did that. We came number one pretty much right out the gate. And then I started looking at training. And I met this guy by the name of Floyd Wickman. He was my mentor.
Oh, from Michigan.
And, what's that?
From Michigan. I'm originally from Michigan, of course.
Okay, so you know Floyd. Yeah. Some of the younger kids may not be hip to Floyd, but man, he's one of the godfathers of real estate training. And so he recruited me to be a trainer for him. And I learned how to train salespeople, and read this great book, Marketing Warfare. I highly recommend it to everybody. It's extremely dated, but man, it's a fun, super awesome read. It gives you insights about marketing. And the Power Program got born from me reading that book. So I left Floyd. on great terms, created my own training course. I wrote a book with McGraw-Hill based on it. It's a best-selling book. And so we train now power agents throughout the country. And we have the registered trademark for power agents of real estate. And anyway, so that's now I'm talking to you.
That is awesome. That is awesome, man. I did not know that you actually did training with Floyd Wickman. And yeah, I mean, we all did the Sweat Hogs way back then and all that good stuff. I mean, we're talking about, one of the greats.
One of the greats.
And I think I have a little bit of history that's a little bit similar to yours, not to turn the show on me or anything like that, the newspaper thing, the odd jobs and all that good stuff. And then, being, underneath the wings of Mike Ferry. So
okay.
go back in history, it was Mike and Floyd. So
that's right. I think the two of them had a meeting maybe, and they split the country in half. Mike, you take the West Coast. I'm taking the East Coast. Yep, that's true. That those two guys dominated real estate training back in the day, and so. But now we got a bunch of different, and I think, training has changed over the years because the real estate has changed and technology has changed and really has impacted how we do our business, makes us more effective, and it creates new challenges as well. But anyway, yes, we're reminiscing here. Anybody listening to Chadi and I, we're just reminiscing about the good old days. All right.
Good old days, man. Good old days. Yeah, I just turned 24 years old, and I feel like I'm not messing with you.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's a whole other program with a whole nother recipe on how to stay younger. All right, Darryl, we're going to get into some of the good stuff in a few moments. But before I do that, I'm looking at your background. So some people are watching this and they can see your background. Some people are listening to this and don't see the background. And I see a couple of words that I want to talk about. One of them is breakdown to breakthrough. And I think, a lot of people, we were just talking about the country being split from West Coast to East Coast, et cetera. I think a lot of the country was split last year during the pandemic of people that just said, hey, this is now a breakdown based on the circumstance and the conditions and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden we saw a bunch of people break through where a lot of people were breaking down. What are these words mean to you? And what can you say about it? Because I think everybody does want a breakthrough regardless of where they're at right now.
One of the things that Chadi, I learned early on, when you're living on your own at 16, you, like we said, you have to grow up quick. And especially when you're not parents raising you, so you got to figure stuff out. So I really, at a very young age, I was really a student of self-development. See, a child's growing up. If they want to try and figure out what it means to be a human being, they have a parent to help them. But when you're on your own, like I was, you have to figure it out and go to other places. And so, I absorbed so much on these self-development programs. And one of the ones I'll never forget, they talked about that distinction about breakdown equals breakthrough. As a matter of fact, you really cannot have a breakthrough without a breakdown, just like you can't have the front of your hand without the back of your hand, and you can't have cold water without hot water. So it's the distinction of the other that empowers each other. So I put that up during the pandemic because a lot of people, like you were saying, they're in this space of breakdown. It's, oh my gosh, what do I do? How do I run my business? Now, some people, they got lost in the breakdown. They didn't have a breakthrough. They left the business. Some of them, and we see this, by the way, in all industries. As we started to go out into the world, we saw other industries, whether it be restaurants or whatever, that they had to reinvent how they do their businesses based on the pandemic. And in some cases, they became stronger because of those reinventions. I.e., if we look at real estate, I mean, before the pandemic, we would never tell agents to do a listing appointment on Zoom, right? You got to go see the house. You got to sit down. You got to open up your visuals, Now it's even after the pandemic, we're not there yet, but even when it's done, I say that that's one of the elements in our business that's going to stay, that it's an option and wouldn't be so wackadoo to do a listing appointment virtually. So that would be the breakthrough. So, but yeah, so breakdowns are a good thing. I taught my son when we were, it's along that same lines, was playing, teaching him checkers when he was really young. And I always played full out Chadi. Like I didn't help my son win. So he would get very frustrated and he would want to quit. And I'd say, Michael, don't quit. I wanted to teach him, Chadi, not to quit. So, and then the second thing I said to him, Michael, you learn from your mistakes. That's a good thing. You'll get stronger. Embrace it. Well, after several more games, Chadi, my son did a 3 jump on me, bing, bing, bing. And I looked honestly astonished because I was playing full out. I didn't give him that. I didn't see it coming. And I had that stare on my face, and my son looks at me and said, Daddy, that's okay. You learn from your mistakes. I was like, thank God he learned the distinction I wanted to teach him. So breakdowns make us stronger. You know, when you get a pencil and it's dull out of the pack, right? How do you make it sharp is you got to give it friction. It's through the friction that it becomes a useful tool. And it's true for the real estate agent as well. It is through the challenges, through the frictions, it's through the breakdowns where you actually become stronger. So that's that.
So basically what you're saying is that we should embrace our breakdowns. We should take a look at them and say a breakdown is not just a breakdown, it's an opportunity because I am on the spring of having a breakthrough. And, you know, one of the ways that one of my other mentors had defined that in the past, he said, you know, the definition of a breakthrough is nothing more than a series of well-managed breakdowns.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, where I also really learned this concept was somebody was telling me they were in the Air Force and they were telling me about test pilots. And what they taught me was that the job of a test pilot is when they have a new piece of equipment, a new plane, their job is to push the plane beyond its limitations to find the breakdown, because it's from the breakdown the scientists and engineers improve and make the plane better. So being committed to the breakdown for the purpose to find a breakthrough. Some people we know in our personal lives, I think everybody has a 1 or 2 people, they like to be in chaos all the time. Like they create breakdowns in their life, but not committed to a breakthrough. They're committed to the breakdown, period, end of story, put a pin in it. So there has to be, you don't just create breakdowns for breakdown's sake. You do it with a commitment to discover the breakthrough.
You know, it's funny that you said that because you're absolutely right. There's a lot of people out there we're speaking specifically to the real estate industry that are always like, you know, why is this keep happening to me? Like I work my butt off. I go out there and I produce 1 or 2 deals and then all of a sudden I get stuck. And go back and break down, and then my breakthrough is to get to that 1, 2 again, and then I go break down. I'm trying to get to that 3, and I think that's what you were referencing when you said, you know, we gotta push through our limits. Okay.
Well, and it's an attitude shift, which I love, Chadi, about one of the differentiations of you is the mindset piece of being a successful real estate agent. And I agree with you that there's people seem to be setting that they keep getting stuck with those 1 or 2 deals. And then once they have that success, they almost self-sabotage themselves. It's the difference. I talked about this on one of our training sessions with our coaching students about being a thermostat versus being a thermometer, right? So the thermometer, it tells you what's happening on the outside, and it goes up and down based on the temperature that's occurring outside of itself. Whereas a thermostat sets the temperature for the room. So what we want to be is not the thermometer. We want to be the thermostat to set what our life looks like, what our production looks like, what our relationships look like, what our business looks like. And we have that within us, but we have to be committed to that.
So how do we do that, Darryl? If you know, look, it's you and I have worked with thousands of agents all over the country, and
yes.
you know that most people just keep on hitting the same number, then they go back, same number, they go back. I want people to break that freaking damn number. Like whatever their best month was at. If their best month was 2 transactions or 4 transactions or 10 transactions, and they just want to add one more deal to that per month, how do they break through that? Give us like a framework or one thing or 2 things or 3 things that everybody can do now to break through and have their best month ever.
Well, they do say, you should know your why, which is good. That could be, for some people that doesn't work, but one strategy is being passionate about something outside of that internal conversation that you have that holds you back. So there's that. There's like, if we look at our children, like I don't know about you, Chadi, but my son has helped me be a better human being, because there's things that I have done that I honestly wouldn't have done if it wasn't for him. There was a certain amount of accountability. I was talking to one of our power aides the other day. She's a grandmother. She's faced with the situation. She has to raise her grandchild. So without getting into any more details, but so she's faced with that. And she's saying, Darryl, I'm having challenges like managing this human being and still prospect. I said, well, include them somehow. Make it an accountability. Like, make a promise to them that you're going to work from this time to this time. And you're going to stop, but you got to keep your promise. So using this child as a partner, if you will, that when you do what you said you're going to do, and then reward the child. But anyway, so knowing your why, something that you're passionate about, that's number one. I will tell you one. I'll give a why for everybody if they're missing one, and then I'll give you a second tip because you wanted a few. This is how I see real estate, Chadi, is that nobody buys or sells a house just to buy or sell a house. They're doing it because they're committed to something. So, for example, somebody might be selling their house because they're committed to moving to another place because they have a job transfer, or maybe because they're getting married or they have a kid on the way, so they want a bigger house to create memories. In other words, people are not committed to selling a house. They're committed to their next level, and selling the house is merely the major part of that commitment. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So really what we do as agents, especially on the listing side, is our job is not to sell their house. Our job is to get them to their next level. And so we've been licensed by the state to help facilitate the real estate piece of that process. But really, I tell agents, Chadi, that they should, I'm a real estate coach, you're a real estate coach for realtors, that a realtor should be a real estate coach for civilians. Our job is to go on a listing appointment and not try and take a listing, but to give advice, to give coaching. And part of being a good coach in any coaching environment is to find out what the person is committed to. And based on that commitment, we're a clearing for them to help guide them to accomplish that which they're committed to. So a listing appointment is really like coaching, not closing. Serving, not selling. So when an agent gets that, now it's not about production anymore. It's about going out and serving humanity. It's about serving human beings that with their most important asset of their life. And Chadi, for some people, if they get that bigger purpose, then they're going to push themselves more, because it's not about the 1, the 2, or the 3 deals. It's about those 1, those 2, or 3 families that need your help. So that's what I say on that. The third thing, or whatever number I'm up to, is I ran now I'm going to get a long way to your answer, but I ran the New York City Marathon. I only say that because I look like that's impossible. And because I'm not into working out or anything, I did it to raise money for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And when I decided to run this marathon, Chadi, I got in. Do you know how long a marathon is, by the way? You look like a healthy guy.
26.2 miles.
Look, you see that, everybody? You see, I knew this guy would know the answer because he looks like he works out. He's healthy. I hate you already. But anyway, let me tell you what I did, Chadi. I got my car. I drove from my house, and I drove 26.2 miles to figure out how the hell long that thing was. And when I looked at it, I said, there ain't no way I'm going to run 26.2 miles. If my hair were on fire, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. So what I decided to do was I got to break this sucker down. Because if I look at 26.2, that's too far. I can't even see that far, right? So what I did was I said, when I started running, I said, you know what? Let me just run to the crack that's in the cement right over there. It's about 10 feet. Let me just run to that. Now, when I got to the crack, I said, all right, let me get to the bush. There's a bush right about another 15. Let me get to the bush. Then it was to the telephone pole and blah, blah, blah. And I learned inch by inch, life's a cinch, yard by yard, it's hard. If an agent just focuses on doing the activity and not the result will happen by itself. When you really think about it, we have very little impact on the results of life. Like the universe is going to do what it's going to do. A homeowner is going to listen with you. They're not going to listen with you. You're going to get more. But what we do have control over is our activities and the actions that we take. That part we are responsible for. So to be less committed to the goal, less committed to the result, and more committed to the activity. What would an agent's business look like if when they got off this conversation, Chadi, with you and I, and they just had one call, they made one phone call and talked to somebody who wants to buy a house, and one other call to somebody who wants to sell the house. 2 people, that's it. And let's say they did that again the next day and the day after that. What would their business look like if every day for the next 30 days, they just had 2 conversations, one with the buyer, one with the seller? That's 60 conversations. I assert that they'll have a financial breakthrough in 30 days just doing that activity. Sorry, I got a little passionate there.
I love that. And I love the simplicity of it. And, we broke it down to just, hey, what if you just have those 2 conversations a day for the next 30 days? And that's 60. And what you're talking about is the compound effect. And, basically, from the get-go, it just sounds like, oh, 2, what am I going to get out of it? It's just 2. You know what I mean? I can do 2. But the challenge is, can you do it again? And can you do it again? And can you go through getting no from buyer number 1, no from seller number 1, and the first 10, or maybe the first 20, or the first 30. And what you're going to be up against is getting a lot of no's. And one of the things that my coach instilled in my head in a conversation I had with my clients yesterday was, if you're not putting yourself in a position to get a no, then in essence, you're not putting yourself in a position to get a yes.
Amen. Amen. Well, here's what I also think about no. I go back to that Warren Buffett taught me this. He said, success is the worst teacher. You only learn from your mistakes. So, when you get a no, and going back to breakdown equals breakthrough, when you get a no, what you should do, this is what I did when I was, Chadi, when I was 19 years old, I was renting an apartment, man. I was struggling. I told you, so I'm going to get a little bit deep here too, just a little bit. When my dad passed at 14 and I'm on my own at 16 because my mother it was not a great relationship, I had a lot of insecurities, man. I mean, I had issues. I was Italian from New York. My father died. I was an angry kid. And anyway, so when I went on listing appointments, it was hard for me to sell me because I wasn't even sold on me. And that's where I learned the distinction about, well, just be committed to them. Don't try and sell them. Don't talk about how great you are, but have conviction that you're really going to take care of them and give them 110%. And so that's where I started to focus more on serving and not selling and all that. But the other part that I want to say about that is when I went on a listing appointment, this is what I want to get to with what you just said. When I would go on a listing appointment and I left and didn't get the listing, Chadi, I swear, this is what I did. I sat in my car before I pulled away from the house, and I asked myself, what could I have said differently to have those people hire me? Where was I ineffective in my communication? So not that I was right or wrong or bad, but there's something. Where's the breakthrough in the breakdown? So that's what I think every agent should do. I encourage every agent, when you're getting those no's, that you don't take it personal, but you commit to mastering the conversation. Because when you think about what we do, Chadi, in real estate, 90% of it's communication, right? You go on a listing appointment, communication, negotiating offers, dealing with buyer remorse, coaching the buyers. 90% of being a successful agent is mastering language, mastering your words and how you speak. And so every opportunity, when you get on a call, for example, and you don't get that yes, that's a good thing, because you want to dissect the conversation. And here's the other thing too. The advantage of using a phone is you don't have one of those senses to use in communication, which is visual. It's taken away. You know, you've heard this, when one of your senses go bad, like eyesight, your other senses get stronger, right? You lose your hearing, your eyesight gets better. Well, so if you take away one of the senses of communication, which is the visual aspect, and you just have the phone, it forces you to get really good at listening, those little things that aren't being said, the piece, putting the piece of the puzzle when they said this versus that, your voice inflection and all of that. It's mastering language. So that's what every agent should be committed with every call to master communication, language.
All right, I love it. So we're moving right along in the direction that I wanted to take this conversation. I think we pretty much said enough about mindset, and now the two other areas that we wanted to talk about was lead generation, so we can help everybody, go out there and take more listings. And number 3 was the skill set, so they can convert the leads that they are generating. And now you're really speaking my language, because we're talking about the art of communication and influence, and you're using all the right words. Serve, don't sell, which is what we preach here at Top Listing Agent as well too. So, and you and I off the air had a little brief conversation about scripts and dialogues, because it is important for you to know what to say, know when to say it, more importantly, know how to say it. And can we talk a little bit about scripts, and talk a little bit more about how one can better their skill? Because I know you use the analogy of identify, like do an audit after every presentation, after every conversation. What could I have said differently? What did I do that I shouldn't do again, et cetera, kind of thing, which is a great way to do it. And then people will identify where they're making a mistake, but they really don't know how to correct it. And this is where we really want to help them out, because we know the answers, they don't.
Right. So which part? So where should I start? I'm sorry,
Anywhere you want. See how good I am at communicating the messages. All I want to do is just confuse you and see what you do with the confusion I create for you.
All right. So, okay. So as far as the lead generation, one of the things we give our students, Chadi, is a chart that lists all of the different lead gen areas that they can do. Call 5 FSBOs, call expireds, call past clients, go to social media, do a posting, and across the top, then it's the days of the week: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And the game should be at least every day do maybe 2 of those activities. So one of the things an agent should do, because we're talking about lead gen, is make a list, take a piece of paper. I don't care. Listen, real estate's not difficult, man. You got to be on the playing field of real estate. So I'm talking to everybody listening, Chadi. Don't complicate real estate. Just get on the playing field of the game. Okay. Some of you are getting ready to work, doing a lot of getting ready, but then you don't work because now you're exhausted now you got to take a nap because you were getting ready so much. Okay. Anyway, so take a piece of paper and write out what are all the different places that you can generate listing appointments. Now, my personal favorite, Chadi, is FSBOs and Expireds, because that's how I built my business and I'm really good at it.
High five.
High five. High five. Okay, there you go. Because what do we know about FSBOs and Expireds? They want to sell. When? Now. Hello. It's called time management. All right. So you call 5 FSBOs, you got 5 potential appointments right there. Anyway. So
what? Here's the thing. I'm going to stop you. I apologize. And the reason being is because not everybody's really a master at working those 2 categories. And, these are the 2 categories that are making more money for my clients than any other category, any marketing budget they have, et cetera. I mean, I got a woman right now that's taken on average of like 10 listings a month working for sale by owners and expireds, and everybody's saying there's no expireds. Everybody's saying for sale by owners are selling themselves, and she's proving them all wrong, etc. Let's just focus on for sale by owners and expireds for the next couple of minutes. Talk to us about that.
All right, sure. So here's what I've learned about for sale by owners. They're method actors. Let me explain. So a method actor in show business, what they do is they become the part even when they're not being filmed. When they put on makeup and costume, they are the character they're playing. They're really deep into it. Method actor. FSBOs are the same way. When you call a for sale by owner, then they find out that you're an agent. They put on this character called Be a Jerk. And they have practiced, drilled, and rehearsed that script a million times. They know how to get rid of an agent. But here's the interesting thing. Their script that they've rehearsed over and over again is only 60 seconds long. See, because most agents don't last 60 seconds with a for sale by owner. And what's very interesting that happens, Chadi, because this is your specialty too, I know you know what I'm talking about, is after you've broken past and you've hung on for 60 seconds, who now shows up is the real homeowner. So number one is make sure you're able to stay on that phone for at least 60 seconds. Number two is one of the best languages on getting the appointment that I teach my guys is to ask, would you be offended if I just stopped by to see your house? That's like some magic dialogue, Chadi. I don't know why. It's just, it's now you can't just do it right out the gate. If you call, hi, this is Darryl Davis, Power. Would you be offended? I'm offended. You even called me right now. Why are you calling? Didn't you see my headset? No hatred. Click. So you don't want to do that up front. You want to find when you've built rapport. Part of your here's the next thing I'm going to say, Chadi. Boy, we can do a whole show just on this, man. This is my sweet spot.
I love this.
I ask my Chadi. I can't wait to get on the stage again. Because of this pandemic, my speaking live has just changed because I love a live audience, man. And every time I speak in front of a live audience and I ask agents, I ask a room, when you call for sale by owner, what should you be committed to? What do you think they say? They say to get the appointment.
Yeah.
And I scream at them and I say, wrong. Here's why. Watch why that is the wrong thing to focus on and to be committed to. Number one, you're setting up a win-lose scenario for yourself. Meaning, if you are committed to getting an appointment, if you got it, oh, great, you won. But if you didn't, you're a loser. So you've set up a win-lose setup. Number two is a lot of agents they don't have fear when it comes to FSBOs. Fear has them. So the fact that they're already freaking out about even making the call in the first place and then put that pressure on that you got to perform and be successful, forget about it. That's why people don't do it. Number three, if you're committed to getting an appointment, then who's the conversation about? It's about you getting an appointment. How selfish is that? So I tell Chadi, my students, do not be committed to getting the appointment. Here it is. I want you to be committed to building a relationship with another human being. Mic drop. Now, this is why this is so powerful. Because number one, it's not about you taking, it's about you giving. Number two is in order to build a relationship with another human being, what do you got to do? You got to ask questions. You got to care more about them than about yourself. You have 2 ears and one mouth. You should communicate in that proportion. Listen twice the amount of speaking that you do. And here's the last thing. If you got the appointment, you still won. And if you didn't get it, you still won because it wasn't about getting the appointment. It was about building a relationship with another human being. Now, if you do that, if you're really good at building a relationship with another human being, they will ask you to come over. The appointment will happen naturally. So the focus is on that. Does that make sense?
100%. I love it. I love it. So basically,
that's it. We can end the show right now. We just gave the secret sauce. If I was Emerald, the chef, I just gave you my secret ingredient. If I was Coca-Cola, I just gave the secret formula. Bing, there you go.
I love it. I love it. All right. So let's keep talking about this because I really like
we still have time to fill. So, Darryl, we can't end the show now. We have to keep going. All right.
So, no, I want to keep going because I want every single person out there to go out there and experience this for themselves, Darryl, because I have a client that I'm working with, and we started working with each other a couple of months ago, and she's been in the industry for 16 years. 16 years, stuck at the same level of production for approximately the last 10 years, et cetera, even though property value is going up, commissions are going up, income staying the same, So, and I said, hey, in 16 years, have you ever picked up the phone and made phone calls? She's like, yeah, but she's only calling her, her favorite past clients instead of the
Right.
Right. So we get her on the phones, and she called the for sale by owner. And I kid you not. And of course, these results are not typical for every single person. And some people experience results faster than others, but all people experience results if they stick with it long enough. On the first day she ever picked up the phones and called a for sale by owner, she set an appointment with the for sale by owner. She went on that listing appointment. She took the listing. It was a $1 million listing, and she's already under contract and about to close the deal.
There you go.
So had she not picked up the phone for the first time, she would have missed out on a good $25,000, $30,000 in commissions. So look, it's just one phone call, one time. Okay, and now of course there's other deals that came as a result of continuing to keep that going. And I know there's people out there that watch other people in their marketplace call on for sale by owners and call on expireds and kill it. And then they watch some people call for sale by owners and expireds and have no results from that. Therefore, they make the story in their mind of like, it works for them, it doesn't work for me, or it didn't work for that person, it's not going to work for me. Mm-hmm. How do we get people to just pick up the phone and make those phone calls? What do you find to work best for you and your clients?
I'll bring up that grandmother that's she's one of our power agents, and she's learning how to raise this young child. And so she brings the kid to school 7:30 every morning, wakes up, makes breakfast, drives him to school. Okay. So she is inconsistent with calling FSBOs. Last time she called, she generated $1.1 million in revenue, sales production. She listed, it sold, they bought something from her. So it was 1.1 million from one phone call. She said, but Darryl, I'm just not consistent. I said, well, you got to just schedule the time and be committed to the time. She says, well, I try and then I get distracted. And this was my answer, Chadi. Let me ask you a question. If let's say something came up, it was a big distraction. I don't care what it is, but it's a distraction. Would you not take this kid to school at 7:30? Oh, no, I'll bring the kid. Yeah, that's right. Nothing in the universe will stop you from taking that kid, or even more, picking that kid up. The world evolves around that appointment because you're that committed to this kid. You need to be the same way with your prospecting.
I love it. So basically, the way that one of my other mentors said it best and drilled it in my head when I was actively out in the field is he said, your prospecting appointment is more important than your listing appointment, because without the prospecting, you ain't getting the listing.
That's right. Here's
it.
Another way. I like to use the farming analogy. We tell our students being an agent is like what a farmer does. Farmer, plants the seeds, then waters it and fertilizes it and cultivates, and eventually produces results. And that's the planting the seed is the prospecting. If he don't or she don't plant the seeds, they ain't no crop. So if you don't pick up the phone and start that new conversation. So now there is, by the way, you wanted me to, I just came to me about the shoe store. You wanted me to talk about the shoe store?
Yeah, let's talk about the shoe store.
Unless you had it plugged in somewhere else and I don't know about it. Like, is now the time you want me to say it?
Well, I had it plugged in for exactly right now. So you got
Okay. Boy, you're an expert here, man. You see, you're a pro. You picked up right on that. Okay. So what Chadi wanted me to talk about, because he heard me talk about this once before, that building inventory is like any kind of business. It's not about getting listings, about building inventory. And that's the important thing, is what every agent should be thinking about is not getting listings, but building inventory. And here's the difference. If, let's say, you decide to get out of real estate, you're going to sell something else like shoes. So you have your shoe store and you got your racks, you got your shoes. When somebody comes to your store and they buy a pair of shoes, that's a great thing. You made a sale. But if you don't restock that shelf, you're going to be in a heap of trouble in a few months when all your inventory is sold. So, and by the way, that shoe store still costs money. You can have an empty store, but you still got to pay rent, you got to pay utilities, etc. And the same is true about real estate. Our inventory is our listings, and an agent has no listings, they have an empty shoe store. So that's one of the things we wanted to talk about with you guys as well, is focus on building your inventory. And here's one other thing, Chadi, is I tell agents that have like low level production, zero production or something, to just, just get one pair of shoes, one listing in the next 30 days. The game is build your inventory by one a month. That's the game. Build your inventory by one a month. So if you got zero in the next 30 days, get it a one. Great. Now month two, do the same thing too. Month three, do it again. But this time in month three, one of those listings sold. So now what you have to do is get one to replace what sold plus one more. Now, at the end of 12 months, you should have 12 active listings on the shelves, but you were restocking during the year. That's how you double your income. Just build your focus, play the game, commit to the process of building your shoe store, one inventory a month. That's it.
Nice and simple. Nice and simple. And
listen, I keep it simple. You want to know why? Because the 1 year I went to college, Chadi, I was a theater major. So I'm not very smart. So I dumb it down for me.
I love it. I love it, Darryl. I just, I love your accent. It's like, Robert De Niro,
What are you talking about? What accent I got? I got no accent.
Exactly. And I'm bringing that up on purpose. And let me tell you why. I'm just like, a lot of people don't like the way that they sound. And, or, we live in a country to where almost everybody has an accent, etc. And they'll be like, and that stops a lot of people from taking the action, because they're like, oh, well, I don't speak good enough English. I have a very heavy accent kind of thing. And I know there's somebody watching or listening to this right now. What do you got to say about that?
It's interesting you bring that up, because I've had that where students would tell me that I'm afraid, I'm insecure, I think I have a bad accent, people can't understand me, blah, 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 blah. And I say the same thing every time, that people in the U.S. that don't have accents, when we hear an accent, it sounds sexy. So, that's why I put on my New York accent, because people in the South say, oh, I love it, your New York accent. That's why I do it. I actually use it, Chadi, So those people that have real accents, that's a blessing, actually. Now, of course, they got to understand something about what you're saying. An accent's fine, but if you can't speak English where people can't hear you or understand, that's another thing. But if you got an accent, that's actually a good thing. You should embrace it. You should own it. You should just own that, man. Communication is like an iceberg, that the words that we use is like only 10%. Like when you see an iceberg, the top of the iceberg, that's only 10%. The other 90% you don't see is below the ocean surface. And communication is the same way. The words that you use represent 10%. The other 90% is who you are in your speaking, your commitment, so if you're insecure about who you are, that's what they're going to pick up on. So don't be insecure with who you are. You make a difference. The fact that you are licensed as a real estate professional, that's a value, man. Your state says that, hey, you're worth to talk to people about real estate. So anyway, own your power, man. Own your power.
So just keep smiling because you are the difference, right?
That's right. Keep smiling, brother.
That is awesome. Darryl, man, I wanna be a power agent.
Yeah.
I want to be a power agent. Like,
Okay.
I want to be a power agent.
Okay.
What are 3 things I need to focus on to become a power agent? Just like, in 30 seconds or less. 3 things I need to focus on. No analogy, no metaphor, no story. Just 3 things I need to focus on to become a power agent.
Prospecting every day, like we said, 2 people a day. Be patient, just like the farmer, and try and keep a positive mental attitude. Hang around people that are going to lift you up.
Okay, so mindset, patience, and activity. Be active.
Yes.
Awesome. All right, and then I want to find out a little bit more about how you could assist me in becoming a power agent. Where do I go?
Here's our website. If anybody wants to check us out, and we are right now running a trial, just go to darrylspeaks.com, DARRYL speaks.com /trial. Not much harder than that. You'll check everything out. You'll see it and see how wonderful we are.
Awesome. And we will put that in the show notes, wherever you're watching this, or on tlashow.com or chadibazzi.com. We'll make sure that we have all the links to all the different ways that you can, connect with Darryl. Darryl, this has been awesome. And, at the end of the day, it's really common sense. And it's just that, common sense is not common practice. And I think that is the problem that people really have in taking their life or taking their business to the next level. I tell my clients all the time, stop measuring, your success based on results. Measure your success based on your integrity, you honoring the things that you say you're going to do. Yep. If you said you were going to make, for example, 20 contacts today, and you made your 20 contacts and you didn't set any appointments and you didn't close any deals and, none of that happened, that was still a freaking damn good day because you are planting the seeds. And this is where Darryl said, you gotta be patient. You gotta be patient. So, Darryl, is there a question that you feel like I should have asked you today that I did not ask you that I should ask you right now before we end the show?
No, I think this is obviously not your first rodeo. So you've done an artful job. I got nothing. I think you did. I had a great time talking to you.
Fantastic, brother. Then I'm going to ask you one other question. I know earlier, I'm an advocate of reading, and I read a lot of books, and a lot of books I read the same thing from different authors all the time, but it's just so good for my mind. It makes me feel good. It keeps me sharp and all that good stuff. You've been in the business for a very, very, very long time. Can you give us a book recommendation that's not the common thinking grower? It's like an uncommon book that most people probably never heard of that you feel is filled with nuggets?
I would say the one that I referenced earlier, Marketing Warfare by Jack Trout and Al Reese. Interesting little side note about that book. It was mandatory reading for all the executives at Century 21 when it came out back in the day. So it's an old book. It's a dated book, but it compares. I don't want to give it away. It is a fun read, and it's not a story. It's strategies. It's specific strategies on how to bring your any business to the next level. So I love that book.
I love it. Well, hey, Darryl, thank you very much for being in a huge value to our audience today. To our audience, check out, darrylspeaks.com /trial. Please do me a favor. If you got any value from this and you feel like there's someone that that needs to hear what Darryl talked about today, because it could impact them in a positive way, share the video, share the podcast. And for Darryl being so generous and giving us an hour of his time, let's thank them online by leaving a review on the podcast or on YouTube, or wherever you're watching this. Just say, Darryl, thank you very much for your time, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Top Listing Agent Show. Take care.